You guys ready?
Yeah.
All right. So, as model railroaders, and all of us are, some of you are a lot further along than me. You know, I have a Walther's hobby shop in my basement, garage, and a storage unit down the street. 1,000 railroad cars, 100 engines, some bench work up, and nothing runs. And I'm always out of town. And my wife thought she could fix that last year. And she said the grandkids are all coming in August to stay in South Haven, and they're going to all want to come over and see Grandpa's railroad, you know, and stuff like that. I embarrassed myself. I embarrassed them because there really wasn't much done. I'm just too busy. So, but anyhow, so we look at how we create scenes and layouts and things that are out there that draw you in. And I want to illustrate some of that with these slides. So this is Maynard Mitchell's layout. He's a wonderful scratch builder, modeler in Battle Creek. But when you look at this scene and this river and the waterfalls, can you hear the water running over the falls? Is that something that you get in your mind as you're looking at this? And there's a few different pictures here. And again, this is like a 2-foot wide thing, but if you look back behind, it's like, holy smokes, there's a lot behind there. No, there isn't. It's all a picture. And there's the river goes to the creek or whatever, goes and makes an S. And it's playing with your mind on how to make distances. But you kind of like, I think I could hear the water coming. Now here's a lumberyard. Would there be any sounds here? Would there be any smells here that you would think when you're standing there looking at that? Or are they actually in your mind when you're looking at it and stuff like that? Here's it says on the layout hardboard there, or on the foam, it says Hopkins Propane, and there's a pressure car there, DOT 105 pressure car. Can you visualize in your mind what a propane, after talking today, what a propane facility might look like? Can you build it in that spot in your mind, and even though there's nothing there? Yeah, you know, and it's just kind of an interesting thing how we do that. Can you fill in the water in the river here for this part in your mind? What it's going to look like on Maynard's layout. Again, we got the Lake Superior in the background, and so again, the water. You'll fill that in with your brain as you're looking at some of these different scenes. Here again, can I hear the water running? You know, in that scene, he's done a wonderful job of modeling the rapids there and that type of thing. But when you're standing against the base of the layout, looking at it, you literally can hear the water running over the rocks and stuff like that with that movement. So again, what is your brain doing for you? And again, same here. There's some examples, similar, same kind of thing. But again, if you stand there, can you hear the water running over that? And those challenges are going around these rocks and stuff. So your brain will do things for you. Now here we have a grain elevator and a ship behind there. He hasn't finished the ship, but when you're looking at this scene on his layout, or there's one more picture, can your brain fill in the details of that ship? What it's going to look like or might look like as far as that situation? And again, interesting thing how our layouts do that stuff for us as you're going along building. Okay, here's another Maynard Mitchell picture. What do you see here in this picture? Speed trap, exactly. And you see the police car waiting there, Andy and Opie, you know, whatever, Mayberry kind of thing. But again, that concept is there. You could fill in the details about what's going to happen or what is happening here with that police car sitting there, you know, waiting and stuff like that. Again, just looking down his layout, some wonderful modeling. I want to get to here. Okay, so you're standing on the benchwork looking there. All these people are doing what? Talking. Can you hear the conversations in your mind? You know, there's a conversation going on here, and you could probably put details in your brain about what's going on with that picture. Same with here. One guy leaning over the railing, one guy down at the bottom. What are they doing? Talking or yelling to each other, and you can hear that. You can make up what's probably going on here based on that design. Here's another place where he's going to build a Swift plant. So again, we can kind of model what that's going to look like in your brain with the truck and the spot there and stuff like that. You can fill in the details. This we looked at earlier, Bill Hayden's layout in Dorr, Michigan. Wonderful layout to go see if you ever get a chance. Single track through the Cascades. But again, you look in there and you can just see the forest. You can see the valleys. and all that stuff. It's very tight, to get in there and walk around in his layout. All right, can you hear the sounds of engines running? Can your brain fill in the details for that? Here's a picture of a few refrigerator cars. This was a layout in Kansas City. I don't know if any of you were at that kind of convention, but this was a guy who was a brain surgeon, so there's a little bit of money. But again, you just look at this, and there's a lot going on in there. But look at all those refrigerator cars with different numbers, on them. So now I see a lot of icing platforms as I travel around different layouts. There was one last night, and I find two things. One is the people who make an icing platform, and there's stuff there, and railroad cars come in and out, and there's stuff up on the deck. The ice never melts, for some odd reason, like it does in the real world. But other people are building these things, and one part of it will be a display. So in this case, we have a display. These cars never leave because there's workers on top, there's ice blocks, all those kind of things, and it's kind of a neat deal. So they're never going to come pick up these cars, but when you come down there to visit, here's a display, and cars will be put down at the other part of the icing platform and then picked up and moved and stuff like that. So display versus an active part of the railroad, kind of a neat idea. So another angle look at that. So these cars are never going to get picked up, but they're there and they're all part of the display. Although further down there will be. All right, here's another thing that we do on model railroads. Why do we put a track coming from the wall, which is just behind that orange caboose is the wall, to the edge of the layout that goes nowhere?
Depth.
Okay. Can your mind fill in the details here of what this means? What am I seeing and stuff like that? I've got track that goes by. This other track is crossing, and it goes somewhere. But you see a lot of these out there. This is another one up in Detroit area called the Milwaukee Junction. And again, it goes nowhere, but we've modeled it. Can your mind kind of get an idea of what this is all about and where it's going and things like that? And it's just one of these things that I think about in imagination. I can fill in the details about this. I don't need the whole scene, but I have tracks that are leaving the side of the benchwork. So another example, a caboose in the background. And we do this, and with the idea that this was a track that crossed, and we're not going to have any other involvement with that. I've seen layouts where people actually will put a light there, and they'll turn the light red every so often. So you have to stop literally and wait for something to cross. And it just changes the dynamics of the operating session. You never know when the light's going to be red, like a train's going to cross. And they'll just leave a part of a train there to help visualize that situation. Here's a bridge running to the edge of the layout and stuff like that. What's that? What's your brain getting out of this picture? Train going by. It's on the bridge, stops at the edge of the layout, and then it goes right to the backdrop. So it's a nice visual thing, but it doesn't go anywhere. I'm okay. This was a layout back in Iowa, and back in the background there, behind that red building just to the right, you see those orange cars there? All right. It looks like the layout runs across there. It doesn't. That's just a track that's up there with cars on it and a bridge that are in the background there. It's just part of the dynamics that your imagination tells you there's a train going across there. Kind of clever, And it just takes out some of that backdrop out of the picture for you, because your eyes are, as model railroaders, our eyes are focusing on what? The bridge and the train cars.
And the tank in the back.
Yep.
Big smoke.
Again, a bridge that goes nowhere. Nicely done. Train helium tanks on the thing. So again, we see a lot of that kind of thing where we have tracks that go to nowhere. There's another one. Again, we put all that modeling time into something that goes to the backdrop to the edge of the layout. But again, your brain tends to fill that in for you to help you make something out of that scene as you're looking at the model railroad. There's another one. This is, when you look at this one, this is a neat industry. And again, it's a rail serve industry. It's on a layout north of Detroit. Will be on the tour and stuff like that. But if you pay a little attention, you look there, See the mirror at the top? This is staging in a building. So how to get more out of an industry on your layout? Okay, I focus on the industry. There's a mirror up there so I can see down, but this is a staging set of staging tracks. Good idea. All right, another crossing doesn't go anywhere. And actually, they've done some modeling. They've spent some money. They have an engine and caboose and all that stuff on there. Again, looking at the scene, this is what era is this? What's going on in here? Again, the 50s is what I see with the brick and things like that. So again, your mind will bring you into that era, and you've probably been to places. I always think about Grand Rapids and the old buildings in downtown Grand Rapids, the old factories for making furniture. So same with this kind of thing. You can say, well, this is the 50s, or you walk in and go, you automatically say, well, this is the 50s when I look at that. I mean, what are the signs? What are the messages they're telling my brain? There, the brick streets, the buildings, the construction, the labels on the buildings as far as the signage and stuff like that. So another layout up by Lansing. Again, the bridge, the water, and the tumbling of the water over the falls there. You're going to get a sound in your brain when you're looking at that. You can hear the waterfall as the train goes by. So again, still water, no running water situation, just kind of pooling. So different kinds of things. How many of you build a beaver dam, in your river or pond? And that's depending on where you are, that's a real situation. Anybody ever been to this layout?
No.
Come on, Fred, you were just there in Toledo, Ohio. Fred.
Yeah, I looked through my
Yeah. So this is his dock, and with a ship, and he's loading potatoes on the dock, and this is a main railroad. But look at the water. Do you see the water movement there with the way he did the water? Like the wind is blowing and there's a little bit of rippling in the water and stuff like that. So nicely done with that situation. You can get some of that stuff also on layouts that are modeling along the ocean with the waterfront. Here we've got a deal where when you're looking at this, you're visualizing it. But the question I have for you is the tide in or tide out? You're adding more from your brain into the picture. Tide is probably out. Yeah. So again, those are things that you're thinking about, and may not have an answer to the question. But again, in or out tides as far as that situation in the scene. So you're building more into it. Again, we talked a little bit about rivers and water movement and stuff like that. What's the message here? Snow.
It's cold.
Yeah, it's cold, and so there's a variety of different ways of making snow. And again, Doug Tashko's layout, Scott Kremer's layout, all have snow scenes as part of their layout. So again, when you look at this, you see cold, in that picture. So again, water, a lot of water pictures because I've seen some really nice looking water in some layouts. And again, you see the water tumbling over the rocks. You can hear the waterfall and stuff like that. Here's water moving, but it's very slow and stuff like that. But also look at the depth of field of the water going back into the back of the scene. Use of S's to get that depth of field. So, okay, here we have a tugboat. And would you say the tugboat is sitting or the tugboat is moving? Yeah, nice work in the way the waves are around the front of the tugboat and the back and stuff like that to create the illusion of it's moving and stuff like that. So this is Ron King's display up in Detroit area. All right, and again, look at the front of the boat here. You can see the waves and the water movement as the boats break you through on the river or on the lake. So again, here's a calmer lake with a car ferry up in Grand Rapids there. It's actually the Midland is the ship in Ludington on the Grand Rapids Pier Marquette layout. But again, smooth water and all those kind of things. Would you hear any noises? Maybe, maybe not. There's people up on the deck there looking out over the front, so they might be making noise. Here's another layout. This is the Kalamazoo Model Railroad Club, and they have just a small section of Muskegon on their layout. And he put that ship in there but because of the area and the amount of scenery and the depth of field, you think there's a bigger lake behind there, and there's not. There's just this little part here where they have the freighter and coming in. So again, depth of field stuff that affects your brain and how you're seeing things. So getting back to Maynard Mitchell layout, waterfalls, bridges, beautiful water modeling. So here we have people talking. Can you hear the people talking on the loading dock? When you're standing there, your brain will fill that in. Here's a bunch of people talking. This is a Skip Likes layout in north of Grand Rapids in the lumber industry. And again, all these guys are probably talking on break and stuff like that. Can you hear the noise here? Cutting wood, chopping. What does your brain tell you when you're looking at the scene? Think these guys are talking? Yeah. They're on a turntable, but they're having some sort of discussion. And again, just the whole thing, your brain will give you some information about that. So I came across this one the other day in my travels, and I thought they're working, they're doing stuff, welding and cutting, probably talking, things like that. So sunning themselves on Crystal Lake. So there could be noises, things like that, up by Frankfurt, Alberta. So again, just kind of a set of thoughts here to think about. What does your brain do? What does your brain fill in the way of details when you look at water, you look at some of the details, depth of field, what's going on? It's amazing what your brain will do to fill in those details for you when you look at it. Even if I write on the benchwork, like I said in the one place, he's got a DOT 105 tank car and it says propane facility. Okay. I can model a propane facility in my brain, tanks, storage, unloading, loading, all that kind of stuff. I can visualize what that's going to probably look like in that process. So your brain will do that as you think about all these things. So is that our goal in our model railroading? Yeah. Yeah, to build something that you can get that feeling out of in the way of voices, noise, be drawn into the scene, all those kind of things with that process. So again, when we were last night looking at the layout, I'm thinking that kind of stuff. How do I get drawn in? What is my imagination filling in the details of? Those kind of things. I like that. So just something that like I said, I put it together with the idea of thinking about some of these things and just ask yourself the question, will your layout fit into this kind of a thing? Can I be drawn in on it with the details and stuff like that? Or do I need to do some work to pull that stuff there to look at? So with that, we come to an end on my part. I want to thank all of you for having me down today. If you want to do this again in a year, let me know. We can talk about it. Lots of clinics in my bank and my computer and other ideas. But I've had a good time and I've enjoyed the time with you guys. And those who've got business cards, if you've got questions or thoughts or want to ask me something or whatever, hey, send me a couple pictures of this to help me in my modeling. I may not get back to you immediately, but I will try to get back to you. So as far as that, but again, I thank you for inviting me down here to Division 8 and Louisville, Kentucky. Okay, well, I'll be here for a few minutes while we clean up and answer any questions you guys might have, whatever. But otherwise, thanks for having me down.
Thank you.